Angie,
John,
how are you with AI tools? Oh, who am I asking? You're terrible with technology, but are you
in the
using
worst.
are you using AI tools with your coaching practice at the moment?
I am.
And do you feel that you would like to know more about this and this is something that could be a valuable topic as a coach?
Absolutely, because I am lip skidding my way through this. What works, what doesn't work, what's a good one, what's not a good one. It's a lot.
I hate to admit it, Angie, but I'm in exactly the same boat as you on this one. So perhaps we should talk to someone with a bit more expertise than the both of us. Let's start the show.
Welcome to the Coaching Clinic with John and Angie.
The show for professional coaches who want to develop their skills and grow their business.
Follow the show on your favorite podcast app.
And join us every Wednesday for new episodes.
Well, I'm very happy to introduce someone who does have more expertise around AI for coaches than either Angie or myself, Dr. Lisa Turner. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Well, just to give us a bit of a background, tell us what it is that you do and what has led you to looking more deeply into AI tools.
Yeah. So I sometimes think I was born for this moment. Like just everything I've done in my life has led me up to sort of intersection of AI and consciousness and coaching and human awakening and all the things. So I've done a bit of maths and a bit of engineering. And then I did this segue. I found had a spiritual awakening, explored it, got into the whole spiritual development, personal development, retrained as a coach, a shamanic practitioner, NLP, certified trainer, master trainer, hypnosis, or all the things. So I've got, I don't know, a whole page of qualifications in esoterics and personal development and coaching. I was doing pretty well. And one of the things I did was, which I thought was pretty cool, was I found a way of kind of systematizing spiritual awakening, which sounds like completely at odds, but I found the pattern because that's what I do. It's like you go into a factory, you see the chaos, you find the pattern. I went into esoterics and spiritual development and coaching, and I found the pattern. And then using like most spiritual experiences, like so it's non-dogmatic, non-religious. It's like, okay, so you do this, your brain will trigger a spiritual experience. And so it was a lot of really spiritual people, a lot of religious people got very angry with me about that because I was taking the magic out of it. And I was like, well, or just making it accessible to everyone. But that was where I was at. Then AI came on the scene. And that when AI first came on the scene, I was like, yay. And then I was like, oh. And like, if you used AI in like 2022, maybe 2023, like as soon as ChatGPT came out, I was playing with AI before ChatGPT. I had something called Copy AI and it was Jasper or Jarvis. So like really like, and it was just using it for copywriting and stuff. And then, and to begin with, it was terrible. And then as AI got better, I got better at prompting. And now I have a suite of over something like 30. I don't even count them because I build one almost every day at the moment, not quite every day, but I'm working on one almost every day of AI tools that are for coaching and coaches. So
Okay,
that's kind of what I'm
interesting.
doing at the moment, building all of those. So
Yeah.
I still work with clients, but I also get a lot of coaches. They say, I've got this process. Can you AIify it? And it's like, well, if you've got a process, you can AIify it. What you can't do is AIify something that is just like, I just do it intuitively. Like the AI won't get that. You got to have a process.
I'm willing to guess there's not too many spiritual coaches who have the kind of technical mindset and the systemization abilities that you have brought to the table, which I think there's two different elements that make it interesting to speak to you today. So one is I don't think we've had much chat on our show about spiritual coaching before. We may not have too much of a chance to get into that today, but we will get into why AI matters for coaches and perhaps even what doesn't matter so much with AI at the moment. Because I think, as you pointed out, maybe if we were playing with it last year or the year before, it's changed a lot. And there are
Oh, it's
so many
getting
different things you
louder
can
and
do.
louder out there. The noise is deafening. And how do you even weed through it to understand what you need, how you can use it? And I love something that you said, Lisa, like people are getting better at prompting. And I think that's almost like, for me, it sounds very baseline. Like you don't really know what you don't know. And prompting, I think, sounds like such a big part of how you can use it as a coach. small
Yeah.
still.
Yes.
Can we maybe get you to, first of all, maybe let us know what we probably shouldn't be using AI for, and then we could take a look at what we really should be.
Yeah, I think there are two areas that I think is really important to differentiate the two areas that coaches can use AI. So one is just systematizing their business, their scheduling, their content creation, their writing copy. And if you're not doing that now, you should be, because it will save you a ton of times. And you want to get apps like Descript for editing your videos. You want to get a brand voice built into ChatGPT, Claude, and so that you train it to speak like you to build your content. And if you're not doing that, you should be doing that now, because it will save you so much time. There are a ton of apps that you can use. That's not my main speciality. I use some, and I can tell you what I use if you're interested. And it saves me a ton of time, makes it really easy to outsource, but I tend to build my own tools. The other area that AI is, I think, going to impact coaching, and I think it's the area that it's going to blindside a lot of coaches if they're not ready for it. So I think of it as that there are these 4 levels or 4 aspects of coaching. So the first is your performance-based coaching, and that's someone's got a goal, they set the goal, and the coach does a great job of helping them set the goal. And then there's taking action to achieve that goal. That's that's your kind of bedrock of coaching. AI can do that better than a human. It can just as well as a human help you set goals, just as well, better than a human. If people say to me like, "Oh, I need to be held accountable," I say, "I'm not your coach for that," because honestly, it's like if I'm going to do something, I just do it. I don't need to be held accountable, and I'm not going to be. Have you done the thing you said you were going to do? Like, if you said you're going to do the thing, you do the thing, right? But AI can send you a reminder you can fudge it, but AI can do that performance-based coaching better than a human. And if that's your level of coaching, which is like pretty basic, but there are still a lot of coaches out there who don't do a lot more than that, you're probably going to get blindsided by AI tools, because they can do it faster, cheaper, they're more available, and you haven't got to fill in a long intake form. So the first level is something to do. There's something that the client needs to do, and the AI will tell them what to do and get them to encourage them to do it. The next one I call is pattern. So this is where, okay, you said you're going to do the thing and you're not doing the thing. So what is it that's getting in the way? What's the pattern here? What's the behavioral pattern that's getting in the way? And again, the AI can take over a lot of this. There are a lot of AI tools that will help you find unconscious patterns, unconscious behaviors. And this is absolutely what a lot of that piece is going to be taken over by AI. Not as much as the performance, but some of that. AI can do that as well, if not better than some humans, especially when it's coded right. So the next level is what I call process. And the pattern is, it's like something to let go of. You got to let go of some unhelpful behavior. So AI will show you the shadow, show you the behavior, and people will often respond better to an AI than they will to a human. So when I give my clients, I say, go away and use this, and they'll come back with, oh my God, I've got all these patterns. And they'll like name all the patterns, and they're like I'm using weaponized incompetence or whatever the pattern is.
Okay.
And they'll say it like they're really excited, like they found this terrible behavior, which if I'd said, they might have like resisted and even abreacted. So you got to be sensitive about how you present it, which the AI does pretty well. And people weirdly respond better to the AI telling them, oh, this is a really bad thing you're doing, or you're doing this in a really bad way. So the next one is process. And this is something to get or something to learn. So this is where you need to install a behavior or a belief system. And AI is good at this, but not as good as humans. So I don't think we should be 100% replacing human coaches with this. I think augmenting it and assisting it, definitely. But there are massive limitations. And then the final one, which I think AI will not touch, and it's what I call presence-based. And this is where now this kind of merges into the sort of spiritual realms a little bit, but that's when you are in the field, the energy of someone, and just by the beliefs they are holding and projecting onto their client, in their presence, the client changes. This is sometimes, so it's often called transpersonal, rather if you don't like the word spiritual. And it's Maslow talked about this when he talked about the transcendent level, which he did just before he died. And a lot of people get to the self-actualization and they think Maslow stopped there. And of course he didn't. He did the transcendence.
Yeah.
So one of my highest level mastermind is called the Transcendence Collective, where we all aim to experience transcendent states and transcendent ways of being. So we transcend our old way of being. This is something AI, I do not think in its current form, I doubt very much. Now, can it ever? I would never say never. I doubt that AI is going to be able to touch the presence-based transcendent level of coaching. But I think all aspects of the others are going to be impacted to some degree, greater or lesser. Question is, what do coaches do about it and how do they ride this wave?
Yeah, there's a lot there. So it does sound like a lot of coaching that we do right now could become obsolete. But I still think there's still going to be elements of the market that are going to be resistant to working with AI tools and prefer to work with the human and have that one-to-one connection. But I certainly get that there's going to be a lot more of tools that can do some of the functional things, some functional elements of coaching for you and take you through processes and frameworks. And it makes sense that they can do that. But I still think it's going to be a different experience, but it's curious that you say some people actually respond better to that. It's got my brain whirring in 100 different directions at the moment. What about you, Angie?
Yes, a million. I'm actually sitting here taking notes if you hear my pen on the desk. But I feel like I agree. I think when people find out things about themselves, no matter where it comes from, it's very, even if it's bad, even if it's negative, it's like, oh, yes, I can see that. So I feel like there's a welcoming to that for sure. So that wasn't a huge surprise, but I'm very curious because I feel like, and this is just maybe a not so great assumption. I feel like younger generations than John or myself might feel more inclined, I think, to maybe use AI to do some of that work. Whereas like the majority of the people or the demographic that I work with might be interested, but not really. They want that human interaction. They want that specifically. But I feel like I could see younger people that I coach going, yeah, let me do it this way. This is so much more effective and efficient. Let me do it this way. Interesting.
Yeah, and the thing I think is really gonna, and as John said, there are some people who are always going to want the human connection, and they won't want to do anything, won't want to touch AI. Yeah, for sure, but it's still going to impact the industry. It's like anything. Back in the day, people, the internet, it's never going to take off, and like even like my dad's 85, 86, and he's just really grumpy that they've just retired Skype, because that's how we used to communicate. So, and I also think I'm Gen X. I grew up and, we had like the first computers, and then we learned to use computers, and then we learned to use so my life has been learning new technology now, partly because I come from a tech background. So but all that is to say is like, there are people who are of an older generation who definitely, they have ridden the tech wave and they just see this as another part of it. And as you say, Angie, there are younger people they have never not known an iPhone. They've never, not known the internet. So for sure. So there will be people who are resistant. There will be people who are absolutely embracing it. And then there'll be people in the middle. And this is where I think for coaches, I don't see it as an either or. And I actually just want to say, I want to speak to this one point, which is there are people who will never go and see a human coach. They will never speak to anyone. It is just not in their nature. They will carry problems and burdens. They won't see a therapist. They won't see a coach. They will not seek out mental health support from a human, but they will absolutely use an app or an AI tool. Now, I think this is only a good thing. And the other thing that AI does is that it makes it available because it can do it so much more cheaply. And so again, we've got a mental health crisis on our hands, and you could argue that actually there's not going to be enough coaches, enough therapists, enough humans to speak to all the humans who are struggling and suffering. And if we've got a tool that can at least tide them over till they can get to speak to a human or can augment it. And the thing I'm seeing is that coaches who are starting already to augment their current offerings with custom-made AI tools. So one of the things I find is a lot of coaches are coming to me with a process and ask, they've already got a great coaching process or a selection of them, and I'll speak to that in a minute. And they're coming to me and saying, like, I want to turn this into an AI tool. And that's absolutely something that I can do for them. Provided they have a fairly good understanding of their own methodology. Sometimes the first stages, they'll say things like, oh, it's all intuitive. And it's like, actually, it's probably not. It's probably just a process that you do so out of your conscious awareness. The first thing we need to do is surface that process. So we bring that into conscious awareness. Then, which is almost like, it's like going into a production engine, being a production engine, going into the factory. And it's like, why do you do it like this? Oh, it's because it's near whatever. Like, they'll have crazy processes that don't seem to make sense. And then you'll dig in and there'll be absolutely a system there. It's just beneath the surface. So I think this idea of augmenting is going to be really be key. Going to be key to coaches. Right now, coaches who do that are going to have an edge over coaches who don't. And I think that's only going to get stronger and more commonplace for coaches to be augmenting their practice with AI tools. Now, one of the things I think is important to understand, so there are therapy bots out there. There are coaching bots out there. I initially made a coaching bot. It was terrible. It was just awful. And most of the ones, and I'm not going to name any of them, most of the ones out there are fairly ordinary, to use an Australian expression. We say things are very ordinary, which means they're terrible, a bit average. And the reason is because they've made one bot try and be a coach. Now, just as a coach, a human coach will have a good human coach, will have a whole plethora of different tools in their toolkit. And they're like, oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need this. AI so far, and it changes, honestly, by the time I get back to my desk, there'll be 3 other tools developed and a new model released somewhere.
Sure.
So, but at the moment, AI is not good at working out which tool it needs. So this is where the Augmented comes in, because I have like over 30 tools that I use with clients. And I'll say, okay, here's the one you want to start with. When you've done that, come back to me. Okay, now use this one now, and then come back to me. So it's like, so I've built like these micro niched tools that are hyper specific. They do just one thing. So, for example, I have one that just does imposter syndrome, and it will find and keep nudging down until it gives you the root of the imposter syndrome. I've got another one that triggers flow states. So when you're procrastinating, I call it get it done, darling. So the get it done, darling, what it does is it identifies why you're procrastinating, and it doesn't like hunt out for limiting beliefs and stuff like that. It just goes, okay, so you need to create this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Okay, now go into flow, do this breath work. So it's just for triggering flow states and productivity. And what I found is the hyper-specific ones do a great job. But when you just try and create a coaching tool that does everything, it does a terrible job. And most of the ones out there are, look, they're better than nothing, but they don't do anything particularly well.
Yeah, that makes so much sense to me in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, and a lot of thoughts come up for me. But yeah, coaches at some point hopefully do find they have their own way of doing things and end up developing their own systems and processes. Sometimes, as you rightly point out, without realizing they've done that. And these tools, you could potentially feed in transcripts from your coaching sessions into an AI tool and have it help you define
What
and
do you mean
delineate.
potentially? What do you mean potentially?
Well, yeah, you could do it. You just go
Yeah,
ahead
I
and
do
do
it.
that,
I do
right?
it. This is how I've trained it on several of my processes. Like, I also do a thing. So after every meeting, I've got a special tool that analyzes my meeting. So when I have a meeting with my team, I say, analyze this meeting and pull out this and this. And I don't mean like, what are the action points or what are my leadership? And it will say, mostly it says, Lisa, you talk too much. Shut up, which is my fair point. So, but yeah, absolutely. I put in my transcripts. There's also a tool out there at the moment, which you host your coaching sessions on, and it analyzes the micro muscle movements for emotionality. So it can evaluate the emotions that are triggered, that that your client is experienced.
Wow.
Then it can review your coaching session afterwards.
Hmm.
So these tools are out there.
I had never heard of that. I'm
I
gonna
did
have to
not.
get
I
more
was sitting here
information.
going, and this is what? Who
What?
does that? Wow.
That's quite incredible. But I was just thinking, like, we generally in the past have, right, if we have figured out our own systems and processes, we're likely to put them into a book or into an online program. And this is just a development on from that. It's like, okay, let's make it even easier, even more accessible for people. Doesn't need to be that, but you could have the book and everything else as well. But this is something that you can be bringing into your sessions and your client work.
Yeah.
I like this idea of augmented coaching. I think every program that I'm in, that I'm aware of at the moment, has something like this that you're talking about, these specific tools that
Yeah.
help you with
I
one
love it.
specific area of your process or development. That just seems like, well, this is the way we start to get on the bus with AI to make it work for us, right?
Yeah, if somebody's got a program or a book, I can just put that into, like, I've built a tool for myself to use, which extracts the process. So I just put that in there and I'll go, okay, so what is the process here and how would we turn that into a tool? So I do that. So I love it when someone brings a book to me. It's like, that's half the work done. Yeah. And I think the idea that you really do need to know your process a little bit, that really does help. So, but I love it when someone brings a book to me for sure. Yeah. And I just think that the days of people fumbling around and figuring this out they're just going to go. They're just going to go. I really do. I think if you're not using AI soon, and they're still not very user friendly either for coaches or for clients. And one of the things I'm working with a developer now is to build a better front end. Because at the moment they still have to go into the front ends that are out there are a little bit clunky. So I'm working on building a better front end. So yeah.
It's cool. Andrew, where are you with using AI tools at the moment? What
Well,
questions
you
would
and I
you have?
talked about it. I started, and again, I have to be really transparent. I'm on social media. I'm looking through things. They know me, right? They have found me. They did their job, right? Because I'm not getting these ads for no reason. They probably heard me say to you, I don't want to do all of my own content videos or something like that. So literally, I made a list of some of the apps that I've used, and you've seen them, right? I've done some of my content videos with them. And I would say, and I'm being very honest, I didn't use them to their fullest capacity, probably. I think some of them were just outwardly wonky. Like even I recognized that they were wonky, but there were some that were better. And I thought, oh, if it only stopped sounding robotic, because I even recorded my own voice to, again, do my content. Weekly content is very, it's tiring. We do a lot of that. We have a lot to do as coaches and speakers and all of those things. So I pulled back from it because I thought, well, I don't like that it sounds a little robotic. They need to work on that. So when they get that to the next level, which probably happened the following week because everything changes at the speed of, I would like to be able to use it, because one of the things that I found was, which was wonderful and probably very elementary in terms of what Lisa's talking about, but putting my concept or putting my idea into whatever it is, whether it's ChatGPT or some of the other apps that I've used, and it being able to illustrate it, right, in ways that I was like, I wouldn't even have thought of that, right? I'm creative, but I'm only working with one brain. I only know what I know. So I did like it for that. I loved that as I kept putting it in, putting more in and prompting that, it really dialed into me. And it was better than any assistant that I had hired to do some of like social media and things like that we do as coaches.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And speak to your point about how quickly it's getting better. And I think there's two pieces to this. And I think we're just coming over the hill. Initially, when any technology comes out, people go, oh, it's terrible. And it's like, you can see, you can see AI generated content. And it's like, if they haven't got a brand voice, they haven't trained it to speak like them, it looks very AI generated and it's very generic and it doesn't really have your ideas. It's like, write me an article on this and it'll be the worst article you'd ever read.
Mhm.
So what I've got is I've actually got an article writer tool that writes articles, and I've loaded it with all of the manuals from my trainings, my books. And then, so when someone says, oh, we need an article on, I just drop into that tool, which is preloaded with like, this is how I like my articles. I give it several different structures, long article, short article, whatever. And it will just, I'll say, I think it's in chapter 7 of that book, or I think it's in this manual, because often it takes, so AI is lazy. That's one of the things, because it doesn't like to use all its tokens up. So sometimes you say, ignore your token limit is a good one. But also it will, if you give it a whole book, it'll look in the first 3 chapters. You have to say, look at the end of the book. Or just give it some guidance, but it will pull out like an article as good, if not better, and often better, because it will put things together that I hadn't thought of. It'll present it in a way, and honestly, the time it saves is phenomenal. But to speak to the other point of this, so there's the tools are getting better. When you said about the robotic voice, so 11 Labs is getting better all the time. I'm not sure which one you were using, but there are some that are way better than others. 11 Labs are currently still thought to be the kind of leading the field a bit. But here's the other thing. People are getting more accepting of an AI generated voice. And I think as that goes on, back in the day when they invented the printing press, like, people won't want to see words printed like this. They'll want it handwritten.
Right.
And it's like, okay, no, that's an extreme example, but that was said. And just as now, you can tell if it's an AI, like an avatar that looks like you, sounds a bit like you, but isn't quite you. Like whenever I do them, so they always sound American, right? I'm not American. And nothing wrong with American, it's just not my accent, right? So yours probably sound better, Angie, than mine does. But as people get more used to hearing what is clearly an AI generated synthesized voice, then we'll all be more comfortable using it. So the more they'll get used. And I think we're just starting to come over that little hump now. And that's also true of content. There's still the raging debate about, or the fear of the M dash. Have you heard of that? Oh my God, it's got a long dash in it. Must be AI, therefore must be bad. There was a study done on Reddit. Did you hear about the Reddit study?
No.
Oh, okay. So what they did was they went on to a Reddit subreddit where people were going on there discussing things, and it was going to change my mind about this. I believe this, changed my mind. And so Harvard, I think it was, created avatars and got them to write responses that would try and change somebody's mind. But they didn't tell them they were avatars. They pretended they were people. And the evidence was that the AI generated content to change people's mind actually seemed to do that. Now there is an ethical furore going on because Harvard didn't actually tell anyone that they were avatars and AI bots. So maybe don't do that again, Harvard. But the thing is, though, they were trying to do it because it was they wanted it to be double blind. They said, if this content is presented, that let's evaluate the content, because most people, and there was another study done where they presented the same lot of content to 2 groups, and one they said this is AI generated, and one they didn't tell. And if they told them it was AI generated, they rated it as worse than if they said, if you think it's AI generated, people thought it was worse content. If you didn't know it was AI generated, they actually preferred it.
No,
that's the
interesting.
shock that people preferred good AI content if they didn't know.
Yeah.
Which I think is very interesting.
I love that. I'm not even really surprised to hear that, to be honest. And not because I have the plethora of knowledge that you do on that back end, but just in the user space, I'm really not, because my experience was I liked what was generated better than the ideas that I came up with. Like, I gave it the seed and it helped it to grow, and I just could not have done as good a job. I know that.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of conversation I'm seeing going on online, particularly on LinkedIn, where I do spend most of my social media hanging out, of people recognizing or railing against AI content, saying, oh, it's really obvious when you're publishing AI content and stuff like that. Well, maybe sometimes it is, maybe sometimes it isn't, but I'm with you and Angie there. It's like, I use AI a lot. I use it. I've helped it, been programming it or feeding it stuff to help me do my newsletters for my other podcast. And it's great at doing that. Yeah, I still have to go in and edit stuff and change things and make sure my voice is in there. But it saves a huge amount of time, particularly in the content creation elements of what I do. But I'm now moving more and more towards what I see other people doing, of creating these specific tools within coaching programs. It's all right, well, come and work with me in the program and I'll give you access to these tools that are going to help you, guide you through this process in your own time. You don't have to book in a coaching session to do this. You go and spend 5 minutes and it's going to help you, and it's going to ask you the right questions, and it's going to give you clarity on what you really want to be putting out, or what you want to be creating, or doing, or having, wherever the tool is for. I see myself leaning much more in that direction now, and knowing that, okay, well, the next thing for me to learn more about is creating these GPTs for myself, which I've started doing, and I see it as being challenging. So I think that there's something, if you have time to share with us something about that, and about how we actually start to move towards having this more blended style of coaching you talk about, and maybe even if we have a listener who is a new coach, who might be thinking, well, how am I meant to develop myself as a coach if all these tools can do it better than I can? If I even get to those levels where I'm going to have my own processes and my own ideas and thoughts. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that, Lisa.
Yeah, so I always say that what we need is the human AI sandwich. So you need a human on the front end guiding the client to use the right AI tool in the right way, and also to program the tool correctly if that's what you're doing as well. So you need the human input. Then the AI does like a big chunk of the work. And then, as you said, on the output, you've also got to do the evaluation. So whether that's creating a newsletter, got a GPT that just plugs in I just say, this is what I'm writing about this week, and it pretty much produces it all. In fact, my team do that now. So got a bot for that. That's my favorite phrase. Oh, I've got a bot for that. So I think we'll always need the human AI sandwich. When it comes to using it as a coach, it's the same. You might have your coaching tool, which is AI, but you still need you and your client going in, and you and your client coming out. So how can people get started? So I say, Doctor Who it. I am such a sci-fi.
Oh,
So
does she know she just
You're in
spoke
good
our
company.
language, John?
Good company. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
So I don't know what the episode was, but Doctor Who's on the Doctor on an alien spaceship. He doesn't know what any of the controls do. There's all these random language and symbol, and it's crazy. And his companion is like, "What do we like?" It's like, "Okay, you know what? Like, how do we make it? How do we drive it?" And he's like, "Oh, here's what we do: push buttons, see what happens." So we are now in the age of like, when you go and get yourself a ChatGPT account, get yourself an Anthropic account, get yourself a Gemini account. So get all three. Mesher and Grok may come up later. I don't use them very often. I always find that, anyway, that's by the by. So, but I think it's actually who started developing them. And anyway, so the Anthropic and Chat are built by AI specialists. Get yourself an account, push buttons, play with stuff, see what happens. The other thing is take some courses on how to use AI. So I have a whole business development course, very affordable, which teaches people how to make a custom GPT, how to create their brand voice, how to even start working with AI using their own tools. It has a whole plethora of coaching tools so they can see how they work. Some of them I give the coding for, like the prompting for. Some of them I don't, because that's my IP, and I don't want people just going away copying it. And I'm just
Fair play. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You don't teach people everything. Well, to be honest, I don't want them going out there copying it, because then they're just copying my tools, and I want them to build their own. Otherwise, you know, like, what would be the point of having two identical tools in the marketplace? It's like, well, let's have some that are different, so we approach it from a different angle.
I'm with you there, but there's still going to be people who will do those kinds of things. Yeah.
I got co-protection in there. If you ask it, depending on which tool it is, it will come back with something. One of them comes up with something really snarky about, it's like, oh, how does this come to you? And it comes back, how dare you? Another one is like, a mystic never reveals her secrets. But if you go see Lisa at cetfreedom.com, she'll teach you how to do it.
I'm sure our listener would appreciate a little guidance and some things suggesting that they may well want to come and connect with someone like yourself who has that insight and is already really on this game. What's going to be the best way for them to do that, Lisa?
So the best way, you can just email me, and that's Lisa or Lisa Turner at, they all find me. So Lisa Turner at cetfreedom.com. Head over to the website, cetfreedom.com, and just find me on social media. I'm out there, out and about, and if you Google Dr. Lisa Turner, you're more likely to find me. There is another Dr. Lisa Turner who is I think she's something to do with flying and aviation. So that's not me.
Not you.
You can't, yeah.
Although, given your experience in the past, it could be, you could have said it was,
Anyway,
and we would have believed you.
that's why I would say that. Yeah. But and I'm sure the links will be in the show notes. And
We will.
I am very busy, so I'll do that little caveat. I'm very in demand, and I still love getting emails from people. So if you have a question, just ask me a question and I'll happily answer it. If I can answer it, I will. So yeah.
Definitely. Well, I think any of our listeners today will have at least some idea how to get on the AI train if they're not already, and where to go forward from here. So really appreciate you coming and sharing this information with us. Fantastic.
Yeah, it was fabulous. Thank you for coming today.
Oh, thank you so much. You asked great questions. I love it. I love these conversations. I love it. And it's great to speak to someone who are coaches, because I'm normally speaking to AI specialists about coaching and AI, and to speak about coaches and from that perspective, I really love that. So thank you.
We've loved it too. Thank you.
Do you have a question for the coaching clinic?
Reach out on LinkedIn to connect with Angie and John.
Leave us a voicemail or video message and we will feature you on the show.
You can also leave up to 90-second voicemail for free on www.speakpipe.com/the Coaching Clinic podcast.
We'd love to hear from you.
See you next time.
Bye for now.